So you can do a lot using basic mathematical operations like plus, minus, multiply, and divide. But to do anything more complex, you're going to need to use functions. Functions are pretty easy to use. Let's look at a simple example. Let's say I have a bunch of numbers here and I want to add them all together. Now I could do a formula like I'll hit the equals key and then say 4 plus and then the cell with the 5 in it and just add each one of those up to get the total. But what if there were many more than just those 5 numbers? So we can use a function called sum. So I'll hit the equals key. Instead of selecting a cell, I will start by typing the name of the function, sum. And then I will type a left parenthesis. And now I'll enter in the range of cells. So instead of a single cell like B2, I'll do B2 and then colon and then the last in the range, so that would be B6. And then I'll put a close parenthesis around it. So I get sum B2 colon B6. And when I hit return, I get the sum there. Now I could do it a little bit easier. I could hit the equals key and then type sum and then immediately just start selecting a range of cells. So instead of clicking on B2, I'm going to click and drag from B2 to B6 and release. And you can see it automatically puts the parentheses around it and formats the function just like before. Now if you have another column here, and I'll put some random numbers in this, you can copy and paste, and we would expect when we're copying and pasting to have cell references move. Since I'm moving over by one column, you would think that instead of B2 to B6, this would be C2 to C6. And indeed that's what happens when I do a paste, Command V. You can see I get the sum there. I can look at the formula and you can see it is C2 to C6. And you could also do things like, say, add a row. So I'm going to add a row here to insert it in. You can see these formulas move down one. Everything moves down. And if I add 1 to there, 2 to there, you can see the sum update. So the sum here went from B2 to B6. When I inserted the row, it automatically changed to B2 to B7. So the references to cells change when you insert rows and move things around, just like they do with simpler formulas where you're using, say, addition. Now on the right here, things change when I went to enter a formula. So let's try another function here. I'm going to delete these and say instead of the sum, let's get the average number here. I'm going to hit equals. And you can see over here it changes to functions. And I have a list with categories on the left and functions on the right. And I could basically narrow down what I want by clicking on some of these categories here. So I can say, well, average is probably something that's in statistical, and sure enough, there it is. I could select it. I could read more about it down here. There's a description with examples. And I could simply double click it to automatically insert that function there, and you can see it's waiting for me to enter a range of cells as a value. I will click and drag and enter that in. So you don't have to remember that it's sum, S-U-M, and average spelled out, and all these other function names and things like that. You could look through here. You could do a search. It's not just searching for the name of the function, but also things in the description. So if I were to search for average, you could see I get average and a few other functions that are related to average as well. So I can quickly find that. Looking through, reading the function descriptions is how you learn how to use numbers. When people ask, how did I know about this particular function or something like that, it's because I poke around a lot in here and I read all the descriptions for things. And when there's something I need and I don't know what the function is, I will search for it. So here you can see I get the average there. If I copy and paste, you can see I get the average for this column as well. You can see, interestingly enough, they're the same, but we could blow that up by changing one of the numbers here so the values are different.